A big thank you goes out to Skillshare for sponsoring this week's video.
Hello everybody. Hope you're all doing great. I really dislike that when you're rushing around trying to capture the last of the light. Got to this location just a little bit late and didn't give myself enough time to find a decent composition before the light was gone. So I settled on these rocks here. I'm not sure if it's going to be any good, but at least I got something. If you're wondering where I am, I'm on an island called Hornby Island, which is one of the southern Gulf Islands. It's along the Strait of Georgia, which is in between Vancouver Island and Vancouver, or what we call the lower mainland. And to get to Hornby Island, you have to take two ferries, one from Vancouver Island to Denman Island, and then from Denman Island to Hornby Island. And I've been here quite a few times, and I've done a couple of videos. I'll leave a link to one of them up here in the corner. But what I really love about this place is that it's really quiet, and there's some great little locations to photograph. It's just a nice relaxing place to come and photograph and try out different compositions. So this area here is actually called Heron Rocks, and it's very similar to an area that I've been photographing not far from where I live actually. Same kind of tafoni rock formations. But what I love about this area is that there's all these weird kind of bulbous boulders like this one in the foreground here with these divots in them, and I really like that. I did capture a couple of images before the light was gone, but like I said, I got here a little bit late. I'm here with my partner Karen, and we just camped at one of the campsites here. This is really a morning location, so I'm looking forward to coming here and trying a few compositions out tomorrow morning. Right, I think that's it for the light, other than light in the clouds. I might be able to get something in the clouds, but I think that's it for this evening. And then I'll be getting up first thing in the morning to see what we can capture.
Considering I was rushing around for this composition, I was really quite happy with it. I really like the boulder in the foreground with the light on it. It really pulls you through the image. I also darkened the sky just a little bit to draw more attention to the central portion where the light is hitting the scene. Just out of interest's sake, I added an image with no light just so that you can see how important light is in creating depth and also direction in any photograph. So when I say it's all about the light, it really is all about the light.
Wow, what an absolutely gorgeous evening. I was just about to give up for the evening because over on this side here, there aren't any clouds above me, but over in the distance, looking towards the mainland, there's some absolutely beautiful clouds, but there's nothing to go with them. And then on this side, the clouds are quite nice as well. So I'm trying to integrate the clouds and the reflections with these rocks in the foreground. And so far, I think it's working pretty good. Might be a little bit busy, I'm not sure. I'm kind of rushing around a little bit because this stuff is hard to compose. But it's a lot of fun. I really love this stuff. It has a lot of character to it, if you could say a rock has character. I'm also using a case ND filter. I think in this case the case filter, is ND64. So I've got my exposure down to about 20 seconds, which is pretty long. But the reason why I'm using it is I just want to smooth out the ocean there. because as I've said many times, I just find the ripples a little bit distracting. Looks like we're losing some of that colour in the clouds, but the clouds this way are just superb. I just don't think there's anything that I can add with them. I'm kind of in the wrong angle here.
Once again, I would like to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this week's video. This past year or so has had its challenges, but it has also offered some brilliant new opportunities. One opportunity was to spend more time taking up a new hobby, so I decided to head on over to Skillshare to see what I could find. Creativity and Beer, a brewmaster's guide to flavor emulation, instantly caught my attention. Master Brewmaster Garrett Oliver shares his knowledge and the creative process of what it takes to stretch your beer brewing mind and palate towards new and exciting ways to brew beer. Sound interesting? The first 1,000 people to use the link in the description below will receive a 1-month free trial to Skillshare. Go check it out.
Good morning, everybody. Excuse me a sec while I just set up my camera here. What an absolutely beautiful morning. I've come back down to Heron Rocks, which is the area I was at last night, and I don't think I've ever seen the tide this low before, so I thought I'd take advantage of it and come down as far down to the coastline as I possibly can and try and take advantage of some of the rocks down here. Now, they're not quite as elaborate, but the mountains in the background just look absolutely stunning. We've lost the colour a little bit because I've been farting around with cameras, which is one of the problems I find with doing video. You're setting up and you're getting everything ready, and then by the time you got everything set up, the light has pretty much changed. But it still looks really great. So all I'm doing here is I have these peninsulas of rock sticking out in the water, and I'm just trying to capture those with the reflections of the sky. Nothing too fancy to start with, but I find it's for me it's important to just get an image in the bag to kind of get the creative juices flowing. And I just love all the different layers. So the rocks in the foreground were very dark, and then I just have the mountains from the mainland and all these different layers of black rock in the foreground. Now I have a 3-stop ND on, but I think I'm going to put on an ND or a case ND 64 on. This isn't quite strong enough. Okay, so keeping that concept in mind, I've tried to find other compositions with the rocks in the foreground as dark shapes rather than, you know, rocks. And I think this composition is much nicer, it's much cleaner. You can see we have these spikes of rocks sticking out in the water, separated by little avenues of water, and that kind of leads you up into the mountains. Now, of course, the light isn't quite as good. The sun's going to come up any minute now, so I might be able to get the sun in there as well, just as it comes over the horizon. But yeah, I think I like this one much better, and that's one of the reasons why I find it important to just go out and just get a shot in the bag. It doesn't have to be very good, just to kind of get you going in the morning or evening. And then once you get that and kind of get a bit of an idea of what you want to photograph, then you can kind of expand on that idea. And this is what I've done here. So after this, I might take another shot with the same kind of concept in mind. But I actually really like this one here. So I think I'm just going to stick with this. I'll take some horizontals and verticals as well. I wish I'd found this when I first got here, because the color was a little bit nicer than it is now. But, you know, I think it'll, yeah, it looks, I don't know, it looks pretty nice. It's got some really great gradation, like the bottom here is quite dark, and then it slowly gets brighter and brighter until you get to the center, and then it gets dark again. So all the attention is drawing you into those mountains way in the background there.
So for this image, I noticed that I preferred the compositions with the water in the foreground, and of course the tide was still going out, so when the sun did come up over the horizon, there wasn't quite as much water in that foreground. So what I ended up doing was combining two images, one with the water in the foreground, and then I also used the light from when the sun was coming up as well. So the final result is actually two images sandwiched into one.
Oh, this place can be a little bit frustrating. This happens to me every time I come here. It's a really cool area and there's some great formations, but do you think I could find a composition? It's just, and it's funny because I've been here dozens of times and I have the same problem every time. There's so much to look at and so many different boulders, and of course it changes every time you come here because the tides are at different levels, or I noticed this time there's a lot more rocks, or smaller rocks within, in between these formations. So it changes every time. So it's not a matter of finding one really cool formation and sticking with it the next time you come, because chances are it's changed a little bit. And of course the light this morning isn't really helping. I mean, we have beautiful light right now, but I know it's not going to last very long. So like we don't have any clouds to the west here, so it's not terribly interesting. So what I usually do in these cases is I'll include more of the foreground than the sky, because there's nothing really there to look at. There's a great lighthouse. This piece of land here with all the trees on it closer to us is actually Denman Island, and then there's a lighthouse, and now I can't remember the name of the lighthouse, but I'll leave it below here. And then the mountains beyond are actually Vancouver Island. I mean, these formations are just absolutely beautiful. I love their kind of smooth, rounded, contoured. They just look really interesting to me, but whether they translate onto film, onto digital or not is another story. Oh, now I'm including my tripod leg. Okay, just when you set up your tripod, really make sure that you've clamped everything down so it's not moving. I also have a new cable release. I bought one, a Fuji one, and it broke within a couple of weeks. It was kind of my fault. I stepped on it. So I just went out and got a cheap one from Amazon. The 2-second timer works fine in most situations, but when you have moving foliage and you're waiting for it to stop, it's kind of difficult to use a 2 seconds timer, because the time it gets to that 2 seconds, the thing might be moving again. This is a pattern that I've photographed many times before, but it looks quite neat in this light. It's just blue and then the rocks. So I think it might work. I haven't included the mountains or the land in the background. It's just purely the pattern in the foreground, and then the reflections of the blue sky. And then I have included a bit of the ocean. So I've put on a case ND filter, I think a 64 in this case, and just to smooth that water out a little bit, make it look a bit more surreal. Oh, maybe this must be the 10 stop, because the exposure is really long. Part of the problem is I don't have my glasses with me, so I can't really see which ND filters I'm putting on. But yeah, that seems pretty long. So I might try and find the next one down, because 50 seconds is just way too long. Mind you, the camera's not moving, and the subject is not moving other than the water, so perhaps it's not such a big deal. The only thing is it's looking a little bit underexposed, and I don't really want to do a minute. I mean, that's just way too long. So I'm going to get another ND filter and switch them out. Yeah, that's definitely a 10 stop. I can't even see through that one.
Once again, thank you ever so much for watching this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. And as always, if you enjoy the content of my channel, be sure to hit that subscriber button. Really helps. Thanks ever so much. Before I forget, I just wanted to announce that I'm now offering my 2022 Quiet Light calendar over at kozubooks.com. Also, my third printing of Quiet Light and Aspen, a zine of work that I took last fall in 2020. So go check them out at kozubooks.com. Thanks ever so much.